with the idea of Winu, you emphasize on sovereignty over education, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I want to ask that, how can we really reflect sovereignty from the curriculum and also from the maybe the administrative work of the school, of the university? So I think Peter also already answered part of the question. Sure. And how about Hohaia? Do you want to add on something, like maybe for New Zealand, or because you are you have to coordinate all the different regions?
Yeah.
Are there different practices?
In New Zealand, I speak for my own institution. Sure. Our programs are very, very distinct in New Zealand. So a student who wants to come and study with us might want to study a Master's in Management. So they come and they say, I want a Master's in Management degree, which is taught in English. But we say to them, yeah, fine, you meet the criteria, but you must enroll in Te Reo studies, which is the language, and you must enroll in iwi and hapu studies, which is tribal identification. Now, a lot of the students don't speak Māori. A lot of them don't know where their tribal origins are. So that's the challenge. You come to us for 3 years and we will teach you to speak Māori, but you have to commit to it. And we will challenge you to go and find out your tribal origins. So often they come and they come for a management degree, but the part that they enjoy the most is actually the iwi and hapu studies, where they find out who I am, where I come from, who my ancestors are. And then the second most important part that they find is learning the language to be able to speak. So when they come out with a Master's in Management, it's actually called a Master's of Māori in Management, so it's prefixed with the word Māori, and the Māori means that they are a practicing Māori researcher who is a competent speaker of their own language. So they can go away after having completed their degree and be able to research and to write further qualifications, papers in the Māori language, which is what we really wanted to do in New Zealand. I think it's a model that is finding some attraction in the WINHEC accredited institutions. Each country has different needs. In some countries, like the Sami, for example, the language is taught to the children when they're born. So they know how to speak the Sami language. For Māori, it's been a 40-odd year journey in my institution, to the extent that in the small town of 6,000 that I come from, 52% of the Māori population are fluent Māori speakers.
52?
And, yeah. So across the country, the percentage of fluent Māori speakers is 21%. So you've got a town, because of the institution that I work for, that concentrates on the language. The wider community has learnt to speak Māori because the students coming through are speaking Māori. They're engaging with them and picking up the language themselves. And then you get the non-Māori shopkeepers who are generally Chinese and Indian, and they speak Māori.
As well,
yeah,
because of the environment.
Yeah, because of the environment they're in. And that's really what we wanted to do. It's a model that works for our small community. It's a model that's attracting some attention at home for other communities who want to know how we did it. And I think the secret we have is the institution that has been, ever since it was built, and I was saying yesterday to my colleagues that you can go into the Guinness Book of Records and find the Te Wānanga Raukawa still holds the record for the smallest university, because it had 2 students and it had no facilities. It had no classrooms, nothing. It just had 100-odd people who wanted to teach these 2 students. So who were at universities, who were retired professors, who came and they wanted to teach these two students. So currently we're around about 2,000 students, and we have the facilities. We now have the capacity to help other communities.
Okay. And how long does it take for this development?
Well, it's taken, my institution is the oldest of the 3 wānanga in New Zealand, and it's our 44th year now.
Wow, okay. So it's actually a long journey.
It's a long journey, yeah. And I haven't been there all the time, but yeah.
So, well, then maybe that's out of my own interest, because we talk about like the university themselves needs to go through the WINHEC accreditation process, and also the student we should be enrolled with the universities. But how about the faculties? Are there any kind of requirement to the professors or the teachers who want to be part of the program? Because I think that's something we're struggling now in Taiwan, because so we're in the process of planning on setting up an indigenous university, and also we do have an indigenous college here in Doha University already, and there are some other schools, other universities, they are setting up departments on indigenous studies, or at least some courses for indigenous studies, but we are very much lacking of indigenous professors or indigenous faculties who are capable of indigenous cultural knowledge, but also with maybe Western knowledge, or also the skill of teaching. And also because in Taiwan, we always need a license to teach in the university, or you need to go through, you need to be qualified. And the qualification is defined by the Ministry of Education. So a lot of times, even we want to have our elders as our professors, they cannot. So if in this kind of situation, do you have any kind of suggestions or any requirement for the faculties as well?
Yeah, well, we do. Most of the countries and institutions that engage with WINHEC do recognise our elders as not so much professors, but we recognise their specialist knowledge. Now, when we're talking about ancestral traditional knowledge, well, the people you would go to are your elders. For example, I'll go back to my institution again. The very first course that they do, it doesn't matter if they're enrolled in an undergraduate or postgraduate degree, the very first course they do is called Interviews with Two Kaumatua, or Interviews with Two Elders.
Okay.
One is a female and one is a male. And they are trained how to interview. They are then sent to interview these two elders to find out what are the intergenerational changes that they've observed. Okay. So when they were my age, how did they see the world? What's different now? They never obviously listen to rap music, but so things like that come out. But it trains the student to deal with ancestral knowledge. You know, how do you elicit that information from an elder? And it encourages the elder to see themselves as a repository. You know, who hold all of that knowledge. They thought that's just stuff that I did, but it's actually stuff that we need to know, that the younger generations need to know, because all they know as a result of the urban diaspora is what happened to them when they moved into town. Yeah. But 2 generations ago, there's another repository of knowledge that they need to talk to. So to answer your question, most of the countries engage with us do actually use their elders. For example, tomorrow night we are conferring honorary doctorates on some of the elders from Australia. Oh, yeah. Okay. So we recognise their scholarship over years, decades of contributing to their communities.
Right. Okay. And Peter, would you like to add something to that?
Sure. So in terms of the honorary doctorates, there's an honorary doctorate for indigenous knowledge holders. So this is ancestral knowledge. Yeah. And they're often in the background, unseen, unnoticed, but making such a great impact in their communities, sometimes even nationally or even internationally. But because they don't have the credentials, we have committed to, as WINU, to highlight and feature these people who have dedicated their lives to perpetuating and transmitting ancestral knowledge to the next generation. And the other category is indigenous elders, knowledge holders, and indigenous scholars.
Yeah, scholars, yeah.
So these are indigenous people who have been involved in indigenous education but may not have their doctorate. But because of their lifelong commitment to indigenous education, we have felt the need to recognize their efforts as well. So there are 9 people that will be receiving such honors from Australia, Alaska, Hawaii, and Norway.
Okay. So actually you do have this kind of in a way, it's also kind of accreditation, not only for the student, for the university, but also for the people who are holding all the knowledges from different perspectives.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're not constrained by what the government says is a scholar or not. We are, so the motto for WINU is sovereign forever, forever sovereign. So the Maoris, they never ask permission, they just do it. So we follow their lead.
Right. I think that's something we really need to, I think sometimes we also need this confidence to do that, right? So, well, because of the time, I need to pose my final questions to both of you, because with the process of WINU, since if we count from 2013 until now, it's around 6 years. And if we vision 10 years from now, what would be your expectation to WINU? If we can put this expectation in one sentence.
Regarding Taiwan?
No, regarding WINU in general.
Oh, WINU itself.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that we're currently doing our constitution, rehashing our constitution and having it finished by the end of this meeting. And my one sentence is that constitution, not only is it a constitution for running the university, but it's a constitution for living our lives as good Indigenous peoples.
Thank you. Peter? What would you say?
I could say it in 2 words.
Right. Okay.
I would use the kapu aloha. Kapu aloha means sacred knowledge.
Right.
So our vision is that, okay, so several years back I went to an Indigenous Scholars Conference, and as I was leaving, we just had 40 days of rain straight.
40 days, okay.
40 days. And as I was flying out, all the mountains in Hawaii the rivers were full, and the mountains had all these waterfalls. And all these waterfalls were coming off the mountain and into streams. There were many streams. And all of these streams flowed into one ocean. So the meaning behind kapu aloha is that many streams flow into one ocean, and the deepest part of that ocean is Kapu Aloha, is where sacred knowledge, which is captured in the word of aloha, it resides. So our knowledge, our elders, our teachings, our philosophies, our values have been dismissed, disregarded, and not respected. So our vision is to elevate that knowledge to its proper place.
Right. Thank you very much for sharing with us about your knowledge and also, of course, your vision. And I think that's a very important part for this interview today, that from different perspectives, from different dimensions, we're actually working toward one very important goal, very critical goal, that we actually have that position. But along the time, along the history, our position is underestimated. And also our confidence sometimes is decreased because all this discriminations, this disrespect behaviors from the other actors. But starting from getting back the sovereignty on our education, we can build on that and resume our sovereignty all over our daily lives. And our daily lives reflect our culture, our tradition, our knowledge, and of course our worldview. So thank you again for sharing with us.
Good job.